in the heart of Westminster. Now it's time to take you away from Westminster and around the country, where Sky's Sarah Hewson has our latest People's Panel. Sarah.
Hello, Adam. Yes, welcome to Ocean Village here in the port city of Southampton. Southampton voted to leave the EU by 54%. And one of the major reasons cited by Leave voters was that of immigration. The city saw a rapid influx of Eastern European migrants following EU expansion. 10% of the population, some 30,000 people, come from Poland here in Southampton, and that led to concerns about the pressures on public services. Trade's also a big issue here. Brexit seen as a potential opportunity for the city. It's home to the UK's second busiest port, which handles £75 billion worth of trade each year. It's the top British port for trade with countries outside of the EU. 90% of its exports are destined for non-EU countries. And the International Trade Secretary, Liam Fox, has said that Southampton will be able to reap the benefits from new trade agreements with countries around the world. That, of course, depends on what the Brexit deal looks like. And there are concerns that the trade benefits may not outweigh the damage done to the wider regional economy. Also concerned about loss of EU funding to universities, for example, staffing at hospitals, the health service, a big employer here in the city of Southampton. So lots to discuss. Let's introduce our panel. Pathak Pathak is a lecturer at the University of Southampton. Hello to you. He voted to remain in the European Union and would support a second referendum. Sarah Richards, you're part of the civilian police staff. Grant Sharkey, a musician, and Cara Sands, a jewellery maker. Cara, let's start with you and how you voted in June 2016.
Well, I did narrowly vote to leave, but I was actually registered to vote in Swansea because I lived in both places. And had I voted on June the 23rd in Swansea, I would have voted to remain because I could see the benefit that Swansea and South Wales had had from the EU. Everywhere you looked, there'd be EU flags for infrastructure projects. But here it was a different situation. It was the concern about the pressure on public services. I could see the strain on my local GP practice. If you walked into the city, you constantly heard Eastern European accents. You'd see beer cans with Eastern European languages on them by park benches, and I just felt it wasn't really benefiting my community.
So you took a very localised view in how you voted. You looked at the different issues affecting the areas where you were living. Grant, what about you?
I voted Remain purely because of the fact that I looked at everyone who was telling me to vote Leave, and I just don't believe they cared about me in any way whatsoever. Like Jacob Rees-Mogg.
You don't feel that he represents your views?
No, not at all. I think he represents his own views quite well. But unfortunately, I just have a feeling that, you know, if you said to him, I'm struggling here, I don't think he'd cry.
Sarah, what about your vote?
I voted to remain, and I'd stick with that. I think it's better to be part of the EU. I think they're our largest neighbour, they're our largest trading partner. We get so many benefits from them, being able to study abroad very easily, travel abroad very easily.
Has anything you've seen over the past 2.5 years changed your view at all?
Absolutely not. And in fact, it's actually made me more determined. I'm really upset that, as the Electoral Commission found, part of the Leave campaign was actually illegally funded, and nothing's been done about that. It said that
they were given a fine by the Electoral Commission.
But it hasn't changed the outcome. I mean, a fine for a party that is still getting what they wanted is kind of neither here nor there. The advertising was the £326 million a week to the NHS. Well, that's not going to happen. It was going to stop immigration. Well, that's not going to happen because any trade deal is going to have immigration. Yes, there is an impact on local services.
What about the claims on the other side, Project Fear, for example?
I think they're quite apt. I mean, Project Fear for leaving the EU, I think they still have a really reasoned argument. They are our largest trading partner. We need them more than they need us. Any logistics for trading outside the European Union is going to cost an awful lot more money. I mean, just logistically, we can get products to Europe and from Europe much easier than we can anywhere else in the world.
OK, Pathak, what were the factors for you in deciding how you voted?
So I voted Remain, and I voted Remain because of the economy. because the hit that we're going to take across all sectors. Working in universities, we've seen this already. We've seen European staff who are leaving. We've seen international...
Funding's
an issue as well. The government promises funding, but there's no guarantee of that. But we're seeing a brain drain of staff. We're seeing students, international students, who are not coming because they don't feel like England is going to welcome them. I think that's a really big problem.
What about the bigger economic picture and the opportunities presented for trade, particularly, as I was saying at the beginning, here in Southampton?
Well, I've just come from India. I was there for a month as part of the university. Went out there to try and recruit international students and form partnerships abroad. And what's interesting is Indians say three things. First thing they ask us is why? Why did you do Brexit? You know, it felt like sabotage to the economy. The second question that they always say is, well, Theresa May came 2 years ago to India and she said, we want your investment, we want your money, we want to trade with you, but you can't come here. Now that doesn't work. So there's a really big problem there, that we think that we can trade with our former Commonwealth partners, but are not on an equal footing. We want their money, we want their investment, but we're not going to allow them to come here, and that simply isn't going to work. And I think the world looks at us now and thinks, well, what is Britain doing? What is our place in the world? And I think there is a bit of a crisis for us in terms of where we stand.
In terms of what's going on in Westminster, how engaged do you think you are, Cara, with the political discourse? Do you feel represented in Westminster?
Well, I don't know about being represented, but I do follow it, whereas I'm aware that a lot of people that you talk to have just given up completely. They're just sick and tired of seeing politicians just squabbling, sort of looking after their own self-interests. So, but yeah, I mean, I am engaged in it, but I think one of the crucial things that was never discussed at the time of the referendum, which is what the key issue is at the moment, is the situation of Northern Ireland. That was never even mentioned back in 2016.
And of course, that is a key factor under discussion today. Grant, Southampton, we talk about the country being divided. Southampton as a city is divided. There's an east-west divide in terms of the way the vote went. Do you think those divisions can be healed?
I don't think so. I think the cat's out of the bag a little bit. I think we've activated the mob slightly here, and unfortunately we can't put that back in the bag, unfortunately. There just seems to be so much rhetoric flying about, and there's a lot of meme-based politics happening that I'm not entirely sure we're going to see civil peace for at least 10 years or so at the moment. That's how I feel. And my feeling is there seems to be a lot of pride and a lot of jingoistic rhetoric going on that I kind of want to call it out a little bit. I want the no dealers to come up with a plan. I'd like to see one no dealer say, let's leave in September when all the fruit and veg is growing in the country.
So you don't want no deal, you want a second referendum?
I want a second referendum.
Do you not think, Patrick, would that not lead to more division? We've already had the vote.
I think it's dangerous. So I'd vote for a second referendum, but I have reservations because all the polls show that even if we ran a second referendum now, there'd be a narrow majority to stay. Now that's not good enough, because we have a divided country. And the deeper issues really aren't just about migration, it's about austerity, it's about the way that the country has been broken over the past 8-9 years. So I actually don't agree with Grant. I think we need to really make a strong effort to unite the two wings of the country. I think it's absolutely vital that whatever happens in the vote, if you have a second referendum, if we leave on Theresa May's deal, or no deal or whatever, this country needs to be healed, and we need some kind of political force that's going to be able to do that.
And
Okay,
I think it can be.
Sarah, a brief word from you.
I think it can be healed. I think there's been too much hate rhetoric, and that needs to be called out as being wrong. And I think we can work together for the better of the country.
An optimistic note to end on. Thank you very much indeed. Patrick, Sarah, Grant and Cara, thank you very much indeed. From here in Southampton, back to you, Adam.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. Well, with me now.